walking through the shadows, out here in the night. Just need some hope for tomorrow. We will be fine.
Hello colleagues, welcome to my treatise on how to populate the learning planner. My name is Simona J, a general science tutor at KSTS. Alright, now as you all know, the PLC session started last year, and professional learning community seeks to introducing us to a more improved version of what we already know. So it is actually adding on to our knowledge. Now, the learning planner, there are a lot of learning planners in the system, pre-populated. It is important that you know how to populate it yourself, because as we move on in the PLC sessions, you realize that there will be a lot of add-ons, modifications to the learning planner. So if you didn't do it yourself, you'll be found wanting. The modifications, you'll be more confused. You couldn't understand level 1, now would you understand level 2? So it is better to know how to populate it yourself. Alright, now what is a learning planner? A learning planner is actually an educational tool that is used to track the achievement of learning goals in a well-organized and prioritized manner. It's used by educators, researchers, learners, etc. The unique advantages of learning planners are that it enhances time management, it increases reflection and self-assessment. It can also improve motivation and concentration. So these are some important reasons why learning planner is very important. It is an improved version of our lesson notes. Alright. Okay. Now, with that said, let's begin with how to populate the learning planner. I have one on my screen here. I teach integrated science, now general science. So I randomly picked 1 week, that's week 13, to be used on an example to help you understand. Alright, so the learning planner has a lot of rows and columns. Look at them one by one. Alright, now starting from my left to right. Alright. We have the subject row, then the second row is a strand, the content standard, learning outcome, learning indicator, and then the rest. So let's start with the first row, subject. The subject row comprises the subject, that's the subject you teach, the week, that's a week, particular week of teaching that you are in, then duration of your period, duration or period, then the form that you are teaching, SHS 1 or 2 or 3. Now the subjects have been modified. Some of the subjects, not all of them. Now integrated science, now it's called general science. So you don't type in integrated science at the subject column. You type in general science, not integrated science. So find out if your course has been modified, given a new name, then you type in the new name in the subject column. Alright, the duration is a period. Mostly, I think 1 period is 60 minutes, 2 periods, 120 minutes. So this is done usually for 60 minutes. Now the next row is the strand row, from left to right. Now let's look at the strand. Strand is what used to be called a topic. Substrand is a subtopic. Alright, I'll come back to this again. Then the next row is the content standard, as you can see there. So what is the content standard? The content standard is the broader knowledge that the learners are expected to master at the end of the lesson. Okay, the broader knowledge that the learners are expected to master at the end of the lesson, and I've typed it there. The learning outcome is the broad knowledge learners are to have at the end of the lesson. So the content standard is a broader knowledge. LO, learning outcome, is a broad knowledge. Then the learning indicator is a specific topic that you are going to teach. So that is the LO. Now the LI, the learning indicator, is a specific topic that you are going to teach for that particular week. The specific topic you have to teach for a particular week. So take note. Alright, now let me go back. Starting from the beginning, from strand, the sub-strand, content standard, LO and LI. You can get them in the teacher manual. It is inside the teacher manual, so there's no need of you creating your own. You don't have to create your own. It is inside the teacher manual. Now, listen carefully here. The teacher manual is a guide for teachers in populating their learning planner. It is a core reference material, or one of the core reference materials in populating a learning planner. The TM is in sessions. Each session comprises a number of weeks. For example, in the TM1 book 1, I'll pull it up and then you see. In the TM1 book 1, let me pull it up. Then this is InterScience Teacher Manual 1. Alright, yeah, this is it. Teacher Manual 1. 2, not book 1. Let's take, for example, this week 13 is in. Let's see the session for where week 13 falls. What I want to show you is that starting the session contains the strand, the sub-strand, the LO and LIs for the various weeks. So you have to open to your book, go to that part and type it in. Alright, let's go to down. Now look at this, session 5. Session 5. Now let's look at this, session 5. Do you see the strand here? And then you see the sub-strand. So you just type it then in the LP, the learning planner. The LO, you see them? It's already there. So you just type it in. It is a core reference material for teachers, the teacher manual. Let's go down. Now look at the weeks. Now here. Now you see the weeks. These are the LIs for the weeks. So the LI is for specific weeks, but the LO, so week 13 there, that is the LI, specific topic. Week 14, that's a specific topic, like that. Now let me reiterate it. Now this means that the strand, the sub-strand, LO, content standard, they are the same for all the weeks under that session. I repeat, the strand, sub-strand, learning outcome, content standard are the same for all the weeks under a particular session. So you just have to type and we copy and paste for the rest of the weeks. So all these that I type for week 13, I'll just copy and paste them for week 14 and 15. The only thing, the changes in them will start from the LI. So week 14 will have a different LI, the same as week 15. So I just have to open the book and look at the LI and type. But as for the strand, sub-strand, LO, content standard, it is the same, common for these 3 weeks. I hope it is clear. Alright, now let's go back to our LP, the learning planner. So with that said, so these are picked from the teacher manual, strand, content standard, LO, and even the LI. Now let's move on to essential questions. Essential questions are questions that guide the teacher in carrying out the lesson. Very important. You have to create a good essential question. The essential question is in 3 parts. 1, the first question should be telling the teacher how which pedagogical strategies, which teaching method is he going to use? That will help. So the essential question is a question for the teacher, and it is in 3 parts. 1, the first question is a question to the teacher: which teaching method, pedagogical strategy is he going to use to help the learner understand the topic? Alright, so apart from the part, the first question, which is concerning which teaching method best to help the learners understand the topic, the strand. The second one is that the essential question should be about the environment. Then the third one is that the question should be about the learner. So let's look at the examples in this week 13. So you just look at it. What is the topic for week 13? The LI. Describe the generation of electricity from solar cells or solar panels. That is it. So describe the generation of electricity from solar panels. That is the LI, the topic for week 13 that we are using as an example in this treatise. So let's look at the EQ, essential question for this topic. Which pedagogical strategies could be used to facilitate learners' understanding of electricity generation from solar panels? So that is for the teacher. Which teaching method, pedagogical strategies is he going to use? And then the next question is: how can the knowledge of electricity generation from solar panels help learners to understand the disadvantages of fossil fuels? So this is about the environment, comparing solar panels to fossil fuels. Then the second one, which should be about the learner. How can learners be introduced to alternative materials in the environment that can be used to make solar panels? So this is about the learner. How can learners be introduced to alternative materials in the environment that can be used to make solar panels? So this is an essential question for the LI for week 13. So take note. Now, the essential question drives this learning planner. This lesson is very key to this lesson. Everything we're going to do is based on the essential questions. It is a question that demands an answer, but it is not a question for the learner to answer. It is for the teacher to carry out practically. So, for example, the first question: which pedagogical strategies could be used to facilitate learners' understanding of electricity generation from solar panels? So that answer is down here: pedagogical strategies. I hope you can see it. This column, it answers the first question in the essential questions. Then the second and third questions will be answered in the activities in the lesson. So when we get there, so you see when we get there. So the essential question drives this learning planner. Everything is based on it. So whatever you are writing here, you should always come back and refer to the essential question if what you are writing is in line with these 3 essential questions. I hope it is clear. It doesn't mean that you should always compulsorily give 3, but it is in 3 parts. If you are able to create 3, it will be good. It will be good. But that doesn't mean. But even if you create at least 2, the 2 should conform to what I told you. That 1, it should be about a question for the teacher: which method is he going to use, pedagogical strategy is he going to use to help learners to understand the AI. Then the second one, it should be about the environment. Then the third one, it should be about the learner. I hope it is clear. Always come back to the essential question, so that whatever you are typing in doesn't go off track from what you have stated here. Very, very important. It is a core of this whole learning planner. So take note. So with that said, let's go to the pedagogical strategies. There are a lot of strategies, and these are the strategies I've enumerated: collaborative learning, top for learning approach, demonstration, and research method. So these are the lessons I've enumerated to help the learner understand the LI, which is manufacturing and producing electricity from solar panels. And one thing about pedagogical strategy is that you must employ all of them throughout the activities in this learning planner. For example, if you write here collaborative learning, you must create an activity, write an activity, do an activity that employs, that uses or that employs, demonstrates a form of collaborative learning. Talk for learning. You should use an activity that is about a talk for learning approach. Demonstration, you should do some demonstration, the activities that we are about to get to. Research method, you must employ it. That is research based. So you should be very careful at the pedagogical strategies. We don't just write any pedagogy here. Whatever you write here, you are going to use it in the delivery of your lessons, in the activity, teacher and learner activity session. You are going to create an activity that will conform to what you have written there. So always watch out for that. And moreover, you have to read the teacher manual on the LI, the topic you are teaching. For example, this week 13 talks about generation of electricity from solar cells or solar panels. You have to take your time and read and know the content of what it is talking about. Okay, read this as I'm scrolling down. So it means this week 13. So take your time, read week 13, the overview of fossil fuels, solar panels. So when we read, I read it and I realized that the content was comparing fossil fuels to solar panels, their advantages, the advantages of solar panels over fossil fuels, and the disadvantages of the fossil fuels. Okay, so I read it. So that was why I wrote this in the essential question. Look at this. Which the number 2. How can the knowledge of How can the knowledge of electricity generation from solar panels help learners to understand the disadvantages of fossil fuels? I hope you get. I read it and I realized that the content was comparing fossil fuels to solar panels. That is, advantages of fossil fuels, disadvantages of fossil fuels, and the advantages of solar panels. So I created an essential question to suit what was inside the TM. So I didn't create this question off track. I just created these 3 questions. Anyway, I read them, then I formulated the question to suit the content. Okay, because I'm going to teach on that. The teacher manual is a guide for the teacher. It must not be forsaken. Always use it. Alright, then the pedagogical strategies we follow. The pedagogy must demonstrate something. You see, the new curriculum does not only assess students on academic basis only. It assesses students on a lot of things like competencies, 21st century skills and competencies, even character. So the pedagogy you are choosing here should help learners to acquire 1 or 2 competencies, 21st century skills, etc. For example, collaborative learning. It helps students to collaborate whether they are from the north, south, east and west, white skin, black skin, albino or not albino. Let us all come together and work and solve this. So this talking about collaboration among teaching them collaboration unconsciously. They are collaborating. Whether they know it or they don't know, unconsciously they are collaborating. Then research method. The learner should go and do a research on a topic or something. So this one is 21st century skills. The learner is being taught how to use technology to find information. So the pedagogy is not for fun. It must have something, an agenda. It has an agenda behind it, and the pedagogy you choose must have something that you are seeking to achieve. Alright, so now let's look at teaching and learning resources, TLRs. It used to be TLNs, but now it has been improved, TLRs. Now look at the column here. It is subdivided into TLR, teaching and learning resources, and references. So teaching and learning physical materials you are going to use in delivery of your lessons. So for example, here we have prototypes of solar panels. So it means I'm going to bring this prototype of solar panels, the one they sell on the streets, and then show them charts, pictures, and videos of various forms of electricity generation. So these are physical materials you are going to use in the delivery to help in successful delivery of your lesson. Now, what about books? Well, for example, books on solar panels. If you are going to distribute books to the learners, so that each learner will open a book and then they use the book to facilitate their learning, then fine, it can be classified as a TLR, teaching and learning resource. So for example, graphic, junior graphic, there is a page describing solar panels generation in Ghana, or someone has made a solar panel, then the picture is there, something about solar panels in the graphic. So you buy 30 graphics for the class, a class of 30 learners. So each student will have one junior guide graphic, and that one you can classify as a TLR, teacher and learning resource. But if it is only the teacher who bought one graphic, picked out some information from it, then use it to teach the learners, it is not a TLR, it is a reference, because it's only the teacher who used that book, that graphic. He did not distribute it to the learners. So take note of this part. You have to separate them into two portions. Teaching and learning resources, the physical items you use. So even if it is cooking and the ingredients, so you have to type all the ingredients here. They're all physical items. Then references, it could be a book. That is, a book is a reference only when it is only the teacher who uses it, gain some information from the book and use it to facilitate learners' understanding, then it is a reference. So here you have to write a proper reference of the book, the name, the author, the year it was produced. I mean, everything in the case of a standard referencing, like what we do for thesis, you have to reference the book properly at the reference here, section here. Internal sources, you type the URLs, the unique link, the URL, type everything like you see there. Like here, you copy and paste the source of the YouTube video or picture. So that is a proper reference. So we give proper reference for books and any other sources and the reference side. Key notes on differentiation. Okay, so we are getting deeper. I hope you have been enjoying it all this while. Now, key notes on differentiation. It talks about differentiated or personalized, individualized teaching and learning for the learners. Key notes on differentiation. How are you going to carry out individualized, personalized teaching and learning for the learners? The learners, there are different categories of learners. Some may be having challenges. There are some learners who are dysgraphia. That is, they have problem looking at graphics, pictures. They can't see pictures well. Some are dyslexia. They have problems with reading or writing. So with letters, when you look at the board, it looks as if the letters are flying in the sky. Then dyscalculia. A whole lot of issues, different kinds of learners. Dyscalculia, they have calculation problem. How are you going to individualize or personalize teaching and learning for them? The different groups and categories of learners, how are you going to cater for each of them, their needs? Alright, so you have to be considering, so you have to be considering their social and emotional needs, the SEN. So the key notes and this differentiation is in 3 parts. The learning task, the learning task that is over here when you grow up. The learning task, this is it. The pedagogical exemplars. Then we have assessment. So we are going to provide differentiation in these major 3 areas. That is a key assessment. Alright, so what does that mean? It means when it comes to learning task, how are you going to provide a task for the differentiated learners so that you don't become biased in your teaching and learning? So these are examples of learning task. Now the learning tasks are actually the questions for the learners to provide correct answers to. So it means that at the learning task side, the learning task is about what the learner is supposed to know. What the learner is supposed to know. The learning task, what the learner is supposed to know. So these are some 3 areas the learner is supposed to know. Alright. And you should be able to help the learners to know this at the end of the lesson. So pedagogical exemplars. How are you going to help learners to know the task? So these are examples. Okay. So engage learners in a structured discussion. So by using discussion, encourage active participation and question. So question and answer session. So you do question and answer session, peer-to-peer sessions. So these are pedagogical exemplars. Then down the assessment. So the assessment, you have to spread it across the DOK levels so that each learner can at least answer some 1 or 2 questions. You don't set level 4 questions only, level 3 questions only, or level 1 or 2 questions only. So that is what the key notes on differentiation is about. This one you can get it from the TM, so you can just copy what is in the TM and then write it down. So when you go down, you will see it, and we go to the TM on differentiated learning. So with 30, let's look at what is there in differentiated learning. So the learning task, you see that is there. Pedagogical exemplars, you can just type them out in your lesson plan. Then at key assessment, you can just type them out in your learning plan, not to waste time. Differentiation, we go on to keywords. These are words that are vital, critical to the understanding of the airline, the topic that you are treating for the week. So that is keywords. So these are some keywords on generation of solar electricity from solar panels, direct current, alternating current, electrons, solar photons, electricity, currents, etc., electricity, etc. You can just add more to it, words that you think are key to the understanding of the LI. You can even add words like inverter, rectifier, etc. So It has to be individualized, remember. Alright, now another key part of the learning planner is how you carry out the lessons. So let's look at lesson 1. In the soft copy format, it is divided into lesson 1 and lesson 2. So each format is in two lessons, lesson 1 and lesson 2. So what we were doing previously, we were preparing for the classroom lessons, delivering lessons in the classroom. So let's look at how you deliver the lessons in the classroom, starting with lesson 1. So lesson 1 is 60 minutes, remember. The lesson 2 is down there. Let's just scroll down, let me show you something. Lesson 2, you see lesson 2 continues the same. Lesson 2, each lesson is 60 minutes, remember. So you can write on top of your learning planner, if it is for 2 lessons, then 120 minutes. 1 lesson, then 60 minutes. Alright, now let's look at this. Look at the guide here. Main lesson drawing on concepts, skills, and competencies to reinforce as in the subject teacher manual. Main lesson drawing on concepts, skills, and competencies to reinforce as in the subject teacher manual. So when you read the teacher manual, whatever you're going to write should conform to it. The concepts, the skills, the competencies that is to be measured in the learner. So like I said, always read the learner, the TM, teacher manual, know what is there, then you can create activity towards it. So let's look at lesson 1, the teacher and learner activity. Teacher activity on the left, learner activity on the right. Now when looking at the starter, there's a time allocated for it. It is 60 minutes, so you have to allocate the time that will befit you. Alright, so the lesson is it starts with the starter, then from there you go to introductory activity, then we go to activity 1, activity 2. There can be a lot of activities, at least 1 activity. Then from the activities we go to assessment. From assessment, then we go to lesson closure, and then reflection. Reflection is done after everything is completed. The lesson has been closed. You have finished teaching the lesson. Now, so from the starter to this lesson closure, all must be within the time 60 minutes. So you have to apportion the time. Apportion the time well. It doesn't mean that if my starter is 5 minutes, yours should be 5 minutes. But you must make sure that more time is given for activities. Because activities usually, there are a lot of things with them. Remember activities. So activity 1 and activity 2, that is what I'm talking about. So don't spend much time in the starter and the introduction. Alright, so let's look at the starter, what it is, introduction, what it is, then the activity, what it embodies, how to write it in the teacher side, teacher activity side, and then the learner side. What are the differences? What should you write? What should you not write? Okay, so let's go on. That's the details of the activities in lesson 1. Remember, we are still looking at week 13, which is generating electricity from solar panels. This is lesson 1 of that LI. Alright, now it is divided into 2 parts. You have the teacher activity on the left, the learner activity on the right. The activities on the left, the teacher side, should must have a corresponding response at the learner activity side. So for example, when you look at the starter, write names of fruits and vegetables on the board and include solar panel for learners to observe. So on the right hand side, observe the words on the board. So then this activity has its corresponding response on the learner side. So make sure you don't forget that one. Now, let's look at starter. What is a starter? A starter is something to bring the learner's attention to class and get them ready to learn. It could be something, it could be a lot of things. Anything that changes them, puts them in good shape to learn. For example, it could be a poem, a song, a little dance competition, a riddle. I mean, it could be a whole lot of things, depending on your creativity. Yes, so depending on your creativity, for example, you can enter the class and then just let them listen to an old time song and let them dance. Then you tell them that you are going to choose the best dancer. Within 2 minutes of listening to the song, they dance to the song and you choose the best dancer. Then you, if possible, you give a award. That is some kind of a starter, entertaining. So that is a starter to bring attention to class and get them ready to learn. Now let's look at an example of a starter. Mine here, write names. Now why didn't I say teacher write names? This side is for teacher column. So there's no need of writing the word write names. So there's no need of bringing the word teacher again. So just go straight, write names. It is actually teacher write names, but because it is in the teacher column, there's no need to bring teacher again. The same applies to the learner column. The learners are performing these activities. So don't write learners observe. Just go observe. Alright. So write names of fruits and vegetables on the board and include solar panel for learners to observe. Then the corresponding response on the learner side, learners observe the words on the board. Mind you, I didn't bring the word learners because it is on the learner side. Then on the starter, the same activity, ask learners to choose the odd one out in the top 4 learning approach. So on the learner side, learners choose, but I didn't bring the word learners. So I go straight. Choose the odd one out, I mean the sentence, in the top 4 learning manner. Now, top 4 learning is one of the pedagogical strategies we enumerated. And I told you that you have to be inculcating them in the activity. So I wrote top 4 learning as one of the pedagogical approaches, and I've used it in a starter. So let's go back and see the top 4 learning. You see top 4 learning here. Alright. So I've used one. So in the next activities how to be. So I've used this. So in the next activities I'll be using either collaborative demonstration or research method. Alright. So that is a starter. Okay. To conscientize and bring attention, get them ready to learn in class. So that is a starter. It could be a riddle, a poem, a question, something funny, and give them a picture to identify what picture is this. You show them a picture. What does this picture resemble? Then you show them something interesting to bring attention to class. Get them ready for work. A song, a dance, music competition, picture for them to identify, a riddle, a poem, a whole lot. So that is a starter. Right, now let's look at the introductory activity. So from starter we go to the introductory activity. This is where you create something to bring the attention to the topic. So you are introducing the LI, the topic you're about to teach. So the introductory activity is to bring their mind, focus their mind on what you are about to teach. You give them a tip. So that is introductory activity. So you create something, do something, write something, an activity. Don't focuses their mind on the topic. The topic is about solar panels, generation of electricity from solar panels. So let's look at my introductory activity here. So shows, that means teacher shows a solar panel for learners to identify what it is in a collaborative manner. You see, I've used another pedagogical strategy that I mentioned in the pedagogical strategy side. So I've used the next one, collaborative approach or manner. So shows a solar panel in a collaborative approach. The corresponding response is observe and identify the item shown. So the solar panel is a physical object. It is part of the TLR. Remember I typed prototype of solar panels. So let's see the TLR. You see this prototype of solar panel. So I'm using it inside the activity. So the TLRs and the pedagogical strategies, you must use each and every one of them that we have stated. So if you type something that at the end of writing the activity you didn't use, you have to modify it, delete it. Alright, so you have to delete it. As long as you write it, you have to make sure you create an activity to use it. So as you are typing out the activities, always go back to cross-check that you are using what you have typed in the pedagogical strategies in the TLR sessions. Okay, so an introductory activity, 10 minutes, shows a solar panel for learners to identify what it is in a collaborative manner. This means that they should talk collaborating among themselves. What is it? Then when you say, oh, it is a solar panel, someone is saying, oh, it's a board, a wooden board. No, solar panel. Alright, so that is collaborate. Alright, then the next activity, under the same introductory activity, so ask learners why it is called solar panel instead of moon panel in a collaborative manner. So we should use collaborate again, think among themselves, why is it called solar panel and not moon panel? Alright, so they will collaborate and then bring out the answer. So learners identify. So identify why it is called solar panel and not a moon panel in a collaborative manner. In a collaborative manner. Alright. So that is the introductory part. So I brought their attention to solar panels. So they have a gist, an idea that we are going to talk about something on solar panels. Alright. With that said, let's move on to activity 1, the first main activity of lesson. Alright. So let's look at the activity 1. Alright, so this is the first activity under the week 13, which is generation of electricity from solar panels. Activity 1. So the activity 1 comprises what you will do or what you let the learners do so that they will understand the concept of electricity generation from solar panels. Of course, you have to read the TM, the teacher manual, to give you a guide how it has been explained in it. You will see it over there in the teacher manual, the TM. Now let's look at my activity. So it shows a video of electricity production from solar panels for learners to observe. Now, so this one is my activity is that I will show them a video, a short clip on electricity generation from solar panels for them to observe. Then the corresponding activity is that so learners will observe electricity production from solar panels. There are a lot of YouTube videos on solar panel electricity generation, so you can have one and show to them. Then group learners into 2 mixed gender groups. and ask each group to research and identify some advantages of electricity production from solar panels. So this second activity, so the first activity is that the first part in the activity 1, they will watch a video on electricity production from solar panels. Then the second part is that I'll group them into 2 mixed gender groups and ask each group to research and identify some advantages of electricity production from solar panels. When I read the TM, it was talking about advantages of the solar panels and disadvantages of the fossil fuels. So I chose to bring the advantages of solar panels first, since it is the point of discussion, the main point of discussion here. So they watch videos, then group them to 2, and then they will research and identify some advantages of electricity from solar panels. Now watch this here, into 2 mixed gender groups. In the activities, you have to consider JC, JC means gender equality and social inclusion, social and emotional learning, SEN, social and emotional needs. You have to consider them, including 21st century skills and national values. In this activity, you have to mix them up. So they should learn in each activity, they should learn 1 or 2 or more of these. Alright, okay. Now let's look at the second part. Groups learners into 2 mixed gender. So mixed gender, that's JC. So female, male, mix them up. So that's JC consideration. Alright. Then the second part is to research and identify. So research. Remember I stated research method as one of the pedagogical strategies. So I've included research in this activity. So research to identify some activities of electricity generation. Alright. So the mixed gender talks about JC. Then the research is conforms with the pedagogical strategy and also teaches them some 21st century skills, which is the ability to use computer and internet to get information. Alright, so that is a research. And they are doing it in groups, which is also a collaborative means. So remember, collaborative method is one of the strategies, pedagogies, and also collaboration is also one of the competencies they have to learn. They have to culture up, learn it. They have to collaborate with others in life and society. So the corresponding response is that so learners will research and identify some advantages of electricity production from solar panels in 2 mixed gender groups. So group 1, group 2, they will all research and bring out their findings. So this is activity 1. Okay. Activity 1, they watch video and then do research to identify the advantages of electricity generation from solar panels. Very important. Now, all the activities in this new curriculum, it is introducing a shift from teacher-centered learning to learner-centered learning. So as you can see, you don't tell the learners verbatim that this is this. These are the advantages, point 1, point 2, as we used to do in the old system. We just spoon feed the learners. This time around, they are going to fish out their information for themselves. Then you facilitate the understanding. You guide the understanding. So if they bring out something which is out of track, you put them on the right track. You are a facilitator, not a spoon feeder. So the learners, whatever activity you bring out, it should be such that the learners it is learner centered. The learner does something to fish out the information for themselves, and then you facilitate the understanding of the LI, the topic you are teaching. Alright. Now let's look at activity 2. Activity 2 also shows a video of electricity production from fossil fuel for learners to observe. So that's what the teacher will do. Then observe electricity production. So they will also watch video on this one. The first video was about electricity from solar panel. This one is electricity from fossil fuels, like a generator. Generator uses fossil fuel, petrol, to produce electricity. So they watch video. And this one too, in a similar fashion, group learners into, I'm talking about this side, group learners into 2 units gender groups and ask each group to research and identify some disadvantages of electricity production from fossil fuels. The first video, I asked them to fish out, research for advantages, not disadvantages of solar panels. The second video in the second activity, after watching the video on fossil fuel to generate electricity, then I give them a task to research and identify disadvantages. Why advantages of fossil fuel, advantages of solar panel, and disadvantages of fossil fuel? Because I read the teacher manual, and that was what I noticed. I noticed that it highlighted on disadvantages of fossil fuel and advantages of solar panels. So I fashioned my activity in that manner. I hope it is clear. I fashioned my activity. Look at this. However, the combustion of fossil fuel emits greenhouse gases. So these are the disadvantages of the fossil fuel. Look at the next part, which is the assessment part. Assessment DOK. Assessment part. Now, assessment. When we look at this side, assessment DOK. Assessment DOK aligned to the curriculum and the subject teacher manual. The assessment should align with DOK. It should be, it should agree the DOK levels. It should align with the curriculum and then the teacher manual. Very important. Now we all know what assessment is. You want to find out whether what they have learned, they have understood it, or they have grasped the concept of the topic that you taught. Alright, so the assessment has to align with the DOK. Alright, it's not necessary the DOKs are up to level 4. It's not necessary that all the 4 levels should come, but any question must obey at least one of the DOKs. So what is DOK? DOK means depth of knowledge. Depth of knowledge. And you have to know them. There are, okay, let me show up the DOK levels. Now these are the DOK levels. Level 1 talks about recall, or the ability of the learner to recall, remember. So words we use at level 1 to show that the learner can remember what has been taught are the words in this upper column. So you can see draw, identify. Draw and ants. Identify which of the following is a living thing. List 3 examples of this. Who is the president of Ghana? What is photosynthesis? So these are states. When you use words like state, define, draw, use, quote, measure, illustrate, they are all denoting that question is an L1 level 1 question, which is used to test the ability of the learner to recall, remember what he or she has learned. Alright. Then level 2 is talking about skill or concept, basic application of what of the L1, what has been learned already, basic application. So graph, when you use words like separate, classify, organize, identify, so they are all denoting level 2 type of questioning. Distinguish, relate, compare, contrast. So they are level 2. It is showing the understanding of the learner. Alright. Then level 3 is talking about strategy. strategic thinking. Then words we use for level L3 questions are develop a logical argument, critique, formulate, hypothesize, cite, differentiate, investigate, compare, contrast, use, develop a logical argument. So these are some words that we use at the L3. The L3 is talking about strategic thinking. Then L4 is about creativity, extended thinking. So words we use in that column is design, connect, synthesize, apply, critique, analyze. So this one demands a learner to go beyond the L3, think strategically, and provide the correct answer there. Alright, so that is the various DOK levels. Okay, so I have a little sample here on the same DOK levels. So have to minimize it. Alright, okay. So level 1, these are the words identify. So these are the words name, recognize, list. Level 2, apply, summarize, classify. Level 3, compare, contrast, investigate. Level 4, extended thinking, create, design, synthesize, hypothesize. So these are the various DOK levels, and you have to employ them in the setting of the questions in the assessment side. Assessment again, it is very important. The assessment questions should be on what the learners have been taught, and each question should follow the DOK. Alright, it should follow the DOK. So these are the DOK again. Level 1, DOK means depth of knowledge. Level 1, Webb's depth of knowledge is a framework that categorizes the cognitive demand required to complete a task or understand a concept into 4 levels. So here are some keywords. So level 1 is about recall and reproduction, the ability of the learner to recall, remember what has been taught. So these are some words we use at level 1: identify, define, recall, list, name, recognize. Level 2, these are some words. So level 2 is about basic application of concepts, understanding and application of the concept. So use words like apply, summarize, classify, predict, interpret, explain. Level 3, strategic thinking, extended thinking. Strategic thinking. So analyze, compare, contrast, investigate, infer, generalize, describe. Level 4, words like create, design, synthesize, hypothesize, justify, evaluate. So I suggest that you have a list of these with you, so that when you are creating the assessment question, you can just come to this page, then you choose the words to create the different levels of the questions. So that is it. So this is the assessment I created for this lesson 1. So identify meaning level 1. Identify any 4 and make sure you bring this level 1 you must indicate which level it belongs to. Identify any 4 advantages of electricity generation from solar panels. Level 2, explain how fossil fuel usage threatens the Earth's climate. You see, in the TM, there are some questions there already. Look at this assessment. Let's go to assessment. You see that in the TM, it has stated the level which it belongs to. So, state 3 examples of fossil fuels. Explain the term fossil fuel. Describe how solar panels reduce reliance. Analyze. Well, you can choose these questions, but it's better to also personalize your or your own. If the whole Ghana, everybody is choosing these 4 questions, then it's better to personalize your questions, create your own questions to avoid something like question leakages. Just create your own questions, but should be around the same topic. You can look at these questions and create out of these questions. It doesn't mean create 4, as you see here, any that you want. You can have 2 L1s, 2 L2s, but don't let all of them be the same level, just so that the learners at different levels of understanding, they can at least get some scores. They will not get 0, at least they can get something to score. Alright, so vary the levels, very important. Okay, so that is assessment. So let's look at the lesson closure. So you have to close a lesson. Formally, we used to have a lesson closure in the previous lesson notebook. The lesson closure is an activity, and in completing this part, refer to the essential questions to check that learning has taken place. So it is, you give a question, but the question should conform with what you wrote at the essential question part. So essential question, what did you write there? Let's go there quickly. There were 3 questions. The first one was about method, the second one was about the environment. So let's look at the second and third. So the first one is talking about electricity generation from solar panels. Okay. The second one is how can the knowledge of the solar panel electricity generation, how can the knowledge of electricity generation from solar panels help learners to understand the disadvantages? So the second question is about disadvantages of fossil fuels, and the next one is about solar panels, alternative materials to make solar panels. Alright. Then since this was not treated in the first lesson, this second question, the third question, was not treated in the first lesson of week 13. So probably it has been shifted to lesson 2 of the same week 13. So look at it. So this lesson conclusion should comprise the first 2 questions, because this last question we did not treat it in the lesson 1. Okay, so the lesson closure should be a question about these 2 questions, about how electricity is produced from solar panels, and also the disadvantages of the fossil fuel. So let's look at the question. Let's go back to the lesson closure question. How it was coined. Alright. Teacher asks learners to explain how electricity generation from solar panels can reduce climate change and increase good health. Alright, so this one is not too direct, so let me split the question. So let me just make it straightforward. So teacher asks learners to explain how electricity generation from solar panels occurs. Okay. Then the next one, and also identify any 3 disadvantages of fossil fuel in electricity generation. Disadvantages of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels in electricity generation. and better. Okay, so this will be better than the previous one. This is better than the previous one. Okay, so let me join the two questions. Alright. So this will summarize the first two essential questions. I hope that is clear. Alright, so that is how the lesson closure goes. Alright, so let's look at the last part, reflection and remarks. Reflection and remarks for lesson 1. Now you see that I edited the lesson closure because I understand what it entails. So imagine if you don't understand it, how can you make corrections? If you duplicate somebody's own, how can you make corrections? So you have to know how to populate the learning planner. Very important. Okay, now remarks, reflection and remarks. In the previous lesson notes, we had only remarks, but now reflection has been added to it. So what is the two? Reflection is your overall view of the lesson. That is before, during, and after. Or during the lesson, what went on, what transpired, what went on, the good, the bad, the ugly, what went on during the lesson. That is a reflection. So you are reflecting, thinking over, pondering over the activities that went on. So this can be detailed. It depends on you. It depends on what you want to write. Well, if nothing happened, you can just write something simple, but let it be a good reflection. Alright, so that is reflection. Then after reflection, you add remarks to it. We all know what the remarks is. Was the lesson successful or not? That is a remarks. So let's look at reflections for this. Let me read it out. Let us now look at this. Reflection is done after lesson closure. So when you are done with it, then you give your reflections and your remarks to it. Okay. Now let me read it. Learners had prior knowledge of solar panels, and most of them had seen some before. However, they were not aware of the direct effect its usage has on reducing global warming or climate change. The dangers of fossil fuel usage were not really known to them in terms of global warming and even certain health issues. I hope you are getting the picture of how reflection occurs, how you write it. The research method used helped learners to discover certain eye-opening information for themselves. For example, they came across words like cogeneration in electricity generation, which was an eye-opener. The usage of 21st century skills, GC, and other cross-cutting issues all contributed to the successful delivery of the lesson. Alright, so this is how reflection goes like. Okay, I'm not saying go and write this verbatim, but reflection is your view, what the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, if nothing bad happened, no problem. If nothing good happened, no problem. Doesn't mean force and write it there. Alright, now let's look at the last part. That is the remarks fused with the reflection. The usage of 21st century skills, GC, and other cross-cutting issues all contributed to the successful delivery of the lesson. Alright, so the last part says that the lesson was successfully delivered. That is the remarks fused with reflection. Okay, so it is very important. Alright, so that is how the remarks should go together with the reflection. Alright, the overall view, how did you see the lesson, the during and after. Alright, before, during, and after, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You write it down. Any incident or whatever. If there was no incident, then no problem. Right, so that is reflection and remarks, how to write it. Alright, let's look at lesson 2 of the same week 13. Week 13 talks about generation of electricity from solar panels. And I divided it into lesson 1 and lesson 2. Lesson 1 talks about the advantages of solar panels and disadvantages of fossil fuels in generating electricity. That is what we looked at in lesson 1. Okay, now lesson 2 talks about the generation, how solar panels actually convert, alright, the sunlight into electricity. So lesson 2 is about the conversion. Then lesson 1 is about the advantages and disadvantages of solar panels and then fossil fuels respectively. So how did I know that I have to split them into 2 like that? By reading the TM. The LI is talking about generation of, let me go back to the LI again. So it is you who have to read the TM and know how to split them into 2, lesson 1 or lesson 1 and 2. Now this is the topic, the LI. Describe the generation of electricity from solar panels. Alright, the generation of electricity from solar panels. And when we read inside, it talks about advantages of solar panels over fossil fuels and the disadvantages of fossil fuels. Alright, so I read it and I decided to split it into 2 lessons. Lesson 1, which was to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of solar panels and disadvantages of fossil fuel. Then lesson 2, I gave it to talk about how the solar panels convert sunlight into electricity. Okay, so let's go to the learning planner. This is week 13. Now, so you have to read the TM. Okay, read it and know how to split it. If you can do it in only 1 lesson, no problem. But if it is lengthy, you can split it into 2 lessons, then do so. Alright. This is for a week. Alright, so if you meet your class 4 times a week, that is 4 periods a week, like I do, it means that even this that I have done, it is possible that I have to split it into 4 lessons. I have done only 2 lessons. I just split it into 2 lessons. But in reality, I may have to split it into 4 lessons because I meet them 4 periods a week, 4 times a week, each class. However, that one too is not constant. It depends on how I want to do it. I have 1, 2 periods, and then I have 2 single periods. So I can choose to use the 2 period for practicals, then the single period for the other lessons. So it is you who decide that I will split the week's activity into 4 or 3 lessons. It depends on you. So you have to sit down and know what to do. Not compulsory 2 lessons like I'm using to explain to you here. I hope it is clear. Very important. You have to know what to do in a week. How to split it into 2 lessons or 3 or 4 lessons, depending on how you want to tackle the topic for the week. Alright. Now, the lesson 2 also has the same format as lesson 1. Teacher and learner activity, starter, intro, activity 1, activity 2, then assessment, lesson closure, then reflections. The same as lesson 1. So you do the same thing as we did for lesson 1. But that doesn't mean copy and paste. This is not copy and paste. You're also going to create a different starter, different activities, different introduction. You're not going to copy and paste lesson 1 items into lesson 2. So the starter in lesson 2 is different from the starter in lesson 1. Yesterday, how you started your lesson shouldn't be monotonous. It shouldn't be monotonous. So don't copy and paste. So look at the starter for this one. Alright. So teacher plays. Remember, I didn't mean teacher here. Plays a song. Plays a song. So let me type it well. Teacher plays a song called Rain Tax from Celine Dion for learners to listen. So learners listen to the song being played. Then the second one, activity, ask them to identify who the song artist is in a collaborative manner. So that's the starter. So you just listen to Celine Dion song Rain Tax for about 2-3 minutes, less than 5 minutes. Then ask learners to identify who it is in a collaborative manner. Celine Dion stopped singing a long time ago. So this is a teaser. Alright, this is a teaser being used as a starter. Alright, and it's all good. A teaser is something that teases your knowledge, understanding. Alright. Okay, so different starter intro for lesson 2. Alright, so look at the introduction. Remember, starter is to bring their mind to class, get them ready to learn. It should be entertaining. Intro is to focus their mind on the topic yet to be discussed. Alright, so look at the intro here. Shows a solar panel to learners and asks them what other colors of solar panels they have seen before using Talk for Learning approach. Remember, Talk for Learning, it is one of the pedagogical strategies I listed there. So this one, teacher will show learners a type of a solar panel. Then learners will observe it and identify other colors. Solar panels come in different colors. So you show them one solar panel and the teacher asks them if they have seen other different solar panel color. So solar panel, so definitely you're talking about something about solar. So it's a continuation of the lesson 1. So it brings their mind to the topic at hand. Then look at the activity, different from lesson 1's activity. So it is not copy and paste of lesson 1. Lesson 2 is also totally different in that we have to populate as well. Alright, so lesson 2, look at the activity 1, shows a video of the various solar panels for learners to observe. Okay, ask them to identify all the components for setting up a solar panel system. So the teacher will show them a solar panel plus its components. Then the teacher asks them to identify the components. Remember, it is different from lesson 1. Okay, then that is activity 1, activity 2. So the teacher will show learners the solar panel, shows a video of how solar panels absorb sunlight to produce electricity for learners to observe. So this is a video, shows them a video of how solar panels convert light into electricity. And then the second one groups them into 2 mixed ability groups and asks each group to summarize how solar panels produce electricity from sunlight and present to the whole class. So this is a collaborative learning. Then the corresponding response summarize how solar panels produce electricity from sunlight. Alright, so let's look at assessment. So assessment is also different from that in lesson 1. So look at the assessment. Let me highlight it, level 2. So I did level 1 in lesson 1, so I think it's enough. Let's go to level 2. Of course, I can also still bring level 1 again in this assessment. Summarize how solar panels absorb sunlight for electricity production. Level 3, describe how solar panel usage can contribute to Ghana's development. Level 4, which is an extended thinking application. Extended thinking outside the box. Evaluate the economic importance of introducing solar panel usage, okay, into a village that has virtually no electricity. Evaluate the economic importance of introducing solar panels usage into a village that has virtually no electricity. So evaluate. So she talked briefly about it, the importance of it. So these are the assessment questions for lesson 2. Remember, lesson 2 is about teaching them, letting them understand how solar panels convert sunlight into electricity. That is what the lesson 2 is all about. Okay. So now let's look at lesson closure. Lesson closure. Look at lesson closure 2. The lesson closure is an activity and refer to the essential question. An activity that checks that essential questions have been answered. Okay, so let's see if this is good or not. Otherwise, I will change it. Alright, this one is talking about electricity generation from solar panels. Let's see. The special question, does this support or clarify? Teacher asks learners to justify how solar panel usage can help reduce the effects of climate change rather than using fossil fuels. Alright, I think I might have to change this. Let me go back to the essential question. Essential question. Alright, there it is. The first two have been satisfied in the lesson 1. So this question has to be changed. The essential question here has to be changed. Okay. Alright. Okay. Now the first essential question is talking about teaching methods that will help learners, pedagogical strategies that will help learners to understand electricity generation. Alright. Then I think the last one has to be how can learners okay, let me make it this way. How can learners be facilitated to understand how solar panels convert sunlight into electrical energy? Electricity, simple. To electricity. And I'll delete this one. Okay. So this is talking about the learners. Alright, how they can be facilitated to understand how. So they will satisfy the question in lesson 2. The lesson closure for lesson 2. So lesson 2 should talk about, when we go and change it, lesson 2 closure. Lesson 2 closure should talk about how solar panels convert electricity. So to briefly, alright. Right, so lesson closure. Let's finish it up. Teacher asks Rob. Teacher asks learners to briefly describe how solar panels convert. 'Cause sunlight to electricity. Simple. Okay, that will help if that is better than the previous. Alright. Okay. So that is a lesson closure. An activity that shows that the essential questions has been achieved, the learning has taken place. So this is lesson 2, lesson closure. Alright. Then look at the reflection. This is a sample. So look at the reflection. There were more questions on how solar panels can be used for electricity 24 hours a day, as the sun does not shine for 24 hours on every part of the earth. The need for battery storage of energy was an answer to their curiosity. Learners had heard of thunder destroying solar panel systems of a house and wanted more insight on it. In general, learners were enthused about the numerous solutions solar panel usage gives to humanity. The lesson was successfully delivered. So I believe by now you are grasping the reflection and the remarks, how to go about it. Alright. The good, the bad, the ugly, the interesting parts, you write them down at the reflection. And it is done when the lesson has been closed. Alright. So this is lesson 2. I divided the week into 2 lessons. When I read the TM, always read the TM. When the TM, it is talking about electricity generation from solar panels and advantages and disadvantages of solar panels and disadvantage of fossil fuel. So I divided the lessons into 2. Lesson 1 to talk about advantages of solar panels, then disadvantages of fossil fuels. Then the second lesson to talk about how solar panels convert sunlight into electricity. Alright. But this is just an example for you to understand how to populate. Okay. Like I was saying, it is not always concerned that you must have 2 lessons. You may have more than that, depending on your choice. So you must know how to populate it, so that if you want to split lesson 1 into 2, you can do so. If you want to split lesson 2 into 2, you can do so with ease. So I believe that. And don't forget the inculcation of Jesse. Also make sure that the activities you include the critical issues, cross-cutting issues, include them. You include the cross-cutting issues, 21st century skills, Jesse, cell, national values. Make sure you include them in it. Competencies, every pedagogy you stipulate, you write, you must make sure you use it in the activities. The starter lesson 1 is not a duplicate. Lesson 2 is not a duplicate of lesson 1. Create a new planner for lesson 2. Don't copy and paste lesson 1 into lesson 2. Alright, so with that said, this is where we come to a close on how to populate the lesson planner. Go through the video as many times as you can. Read through it. The TM is a key reference material. Don't read it and always refer to it. Read it. Make sure whatever you write at the pedagogy, you are going to use it. The essential questions, create good essential questions. It is in 3 parts. It should be about the pedagogy, the method you are going to use to facilitate the understanding of the learners on a particular topic. Then at the TLRs, teaching and learning resource, we divide it into 2, which is teacher divided into 2. We have the reference side, and then we also have the teaching and learning resources. So go through it. Every hard copy material used is a TLR. Then you input your references, internet sources, cite them well, books you use, cite them well, as we do in thesis citation and reference. Alright. So I hope you understand it, and don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thank you. Have a nice day.
I know you're a special one. Something crazy where I see love. You fall so low but so high. Big dreamer, shoot for open sky. So much life in those open eyes.